All right. Uh, Wait in presenter mode now.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Are you still able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
The slide deck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Right. So let's start with Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Let's start as usual with our Shanti mantra. Asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From untruth, lead me to the truth. From darkness, lead me to light. From death, lead me to immortality. Om peace, peace, peace. Okay. Hello all, and welcome to the uh, which I think is the 12th lecture of this course. So today the agenda is the following. We will first quickly review last week's assignments from Ajay, and then we will get started with the new topic where we will discuss about the different aspects of time in Indian astronomy, and then we'll have the Q&A towards the end as usual. So this topic will span through at least two classes, this one and the next one, if not more than that. Hopefully, it's an interesting one. And yeah, so Ajay, back to you for the assignment review.
Sure.
Do you want to share your screen, Ajay?
Yeah. You'll have to stop sharing. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So. You can see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the assignment from last time, 5 questions. The first one was look what actually established that Lagadha and Parashara were contemporaries around 1400 BC. What actually did they observe in the sky? What did they prove? In terms of the time period that they lived. We also asked about who among the astronomers that we studied came up with the first sign table. We asked whether how could you explain the analogy that Aryabhatta gave about the rotating Earth?
Ajay, your audio seems to have gone. I don't know if it's
Okay.
No, I think Ajay's audio is fine.
Audio is fine.
Yeah, I
Audio is
can
fine.
hear that.
Okay. Hopefully everything is okay.
All is fine, Ajay. Please go.
Okay, good. Then we also talked about, we asked which astronomer of the list actually used the word Gurutva for gravity. And then we also wondered why Newton is credited for gravity in the world when we know or we have seen that Varamihira and Brahmagupta actually looked at gravity more than 1,000 years before Newton. So in terms of the first question, we saw that both of them observed the winter solstice actually starting with the moon entering the Dhanishta nakshatra, which according using the precision actually places both of them around that same time period. So that is the answer for that. In terms of the second question, Aryabhatta clearly was the first who put the sign table together. There is a very interesting anecdote about how he actually came up with the sign table and what the sign table actually had in there, but we can go over that in some other class. In terms of the Earth rotating, Aryabhatta actually talked about the boat, or the man in a boat seeing the trees move backward, which is akin to the Earth rotating, and we seeing the sun or the stars moving westward. So in terms of the first astronomer that used Gurutva for gravity was Varamahira. And yeah, even though gravity, as we saw, was known in different forms before Varamahira, and for example, we saw Yagnavalkya, who was at least maybe 1,000 years or more before Varamahira, actually use gravity, but use a different term for gravity. He called it immutable force. But similar, the concept of gravity was there, but Varamahira was the first one to use Gurutva for gravity. And it was very interesting to read so many different responses from people about the whole Newton and his crediting Newton for gravity, and what was the reasons. And clearly, the more people talked about the fact that he come up with quantitative expression for gravity, and coupled with colonization and printing press, that actually led to Newton being credited more. And what we need to do going forward is making sure that we publicize this knowledge, increase awareness among all our peers, colleagues, and of course, making sure that the knowledge is passed on to the next generation. So very quickly, I thought I'd just talk about the Vedanga Jyotish and Parashara Samhita, which talk explicitly about the winter solstice and the Dhanishya Nakshatra, and the sun was at the beginning of the Dhanishya Nakshatra. The sun and the moon are in the Dhanishya, and winter solstice occurs. This is the exact statement from Vedanga Jyotisha. And Parashara Samhita talks about cold season beginning when the sun transits from the beginning of the Dhanishya till the middle of Revati. So that basically established the fact that it happened before 1800 BCE, because again, using a software, and we'll probably go over that software later. That software which we use is called Planetarium, which allows us to simulate all these different nakshatra star positions and so on. But before 1800 BCE, the winter solstice occurred in Shravishta, which is the previous nakshatra from Dhanishta. And the previous time it occurred, when the winter solstice began, when the sun and moon entered the Dhanishta nakshatra, was 27,000 BCE. So that was the previous time it had occurred. And the next time it will happen again is 25,000 CE. So that clearly says that, okay, they were most probably in that same time period. Okay, that's it from my side.
Okay.
1 second, I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ajay.
Okay.
All right. I hope you are able to see my screen now again. Okay, thank you. Do you see that zoom bar on the top?
No.
Okay, I think it's only for me, I guess. No problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can actually say hide floating
It's
control. That is a
yeah. It's okay now, Ajay. I think
okay.
it's auto hidden. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So like I said before, we'll get started with another topic today, which is the timescales in Indian astronomy. And like we usually do, let's start with hopefully an interesting, like a quiz question or a teaser, right? Can you look at these images? I hope you're able to see my screen still.
Yep.
Can you look at these images? There is some kind of symbolism that is represented by these images. Is it? Are you able to guess what that is?
It's
It's
losing a
obviously
leg, moving from left to
yes,
right.
correct. So this is
Is this the padas
obviously
of nakshatras?
not exactly. Uh, yeah. So in Bhagavata Purana, uh, the bull is the symbol of dharma. So there are verses that equate dharma to a bull, right? Uh, okay, so let me reveal a little bit more.
So yugas,
Uh, yes, that is correct. So if you see the first one, Narsimha Avatar, that's happening in the Satya Yuga, the Krita Yuga. The second one is the Ramayana, that is happening in the Treta Yuga. Third one is the Mahabharata, that's happening in the Dwapara. And the last one, where the morals are deteriorating significantly. You can see that, people are smoking and intoxication is around. Cattle is being, attacked and all that. So all of that is happening in the Kali Yuga, right? So Dharma stands on four legs in the Satya Yuga. So this is a symbolism of that, right? In Treta Yuga, it loses one leg and it stands on three. In the Dwapara Yuga, it loses one more and stands on two. And the Kali Yuga, Dharma is literally standing on only one leg, right? So that is the symbolism that is represented here, which also shows the passage of the yugas and to show that dharma actually deteriorates through the different yugas. So I see a hand raised by Mahesh sir. Mahesh sir.
There seems to be some echo when you talk. I was wondering whether you could use a headphone.
Are others able to
You
hear
are
it as well?
speaking. You are speaking to the laptop microphone directly.
I cannot hear any echo. It's very clear.
Oh, okay. So I don't know.
I do not have any echo problem.
Okay.
Yeah, my Zoom is actually attached to my speakers, the Bluetooth speakers, which I'm having in my ear right now. So I think something else needs to be checked.
It's coming through pretty clearly.
Yeah, Ajay's voice is very clear, but somehow not yours. So that's why I thought maybe you are directly talking to the laptop microphone.
No. I do have a Bluetooth earphones, and my Zoom is connected to those earphones, sir.
Okay, move on.
All right. Yeah. So the four legs of Dharma are Satya, Tapas, Pavitrata, or what is called as Shaucha, and Daya. And each of them kind of deteriorate, with the passage of every yuga, right? So that is what we wanted to start off this section with. So that leads us to let's talk about, let's start with the Yugas. So Yuga is obviously one of the very large and a cyclic time scales that we are aware with, right? But where does even the Yuga fit into the larger cycle of time in Indian astronomy, right? So we'll start from there, and progressively we will go into these smaller times, and then in that process we will explore or go into the detail of the different aspects of time, right? So this topic is time in Bharatiya astronomy, right? Okay, now this is something that is very familiar to all of you, either you by chanting or through listening. This is the Sankalpa mantra that that we recite or we hear it recite in every day. So the Sankalpa mantra goes like this, right? Shubhe Sobane Shobane Muhurte Adya Brahmana Dutiya Parade Shredvaraha Kalpe Vaivasvata Manvatre Ashtavimshatithame, so on and so forth, right? Now, obviously, the Sankalpa mantra is uh, both tagging the person who says this in time and space, right? So it indicates that I am here standing at a particular place and at a particular time while I am about to do this activity, right? So uh, so it is not just a mere announcement of time that I am standing here at this time, right? But it's about anchoring one's mind to the frequency of the universe, right? To put it that way, right? And to say that I am aligned with the rhythm of the universe by standing at this point in space and time, so that the activity that I may do will also be in rhythm or in harmony with the overall universal harmony, and hence the action will bear fruit. So I think that's the idea of the sankalpa itself. So every day when we say this, we are actually remembering where we are actually in space and time, right? Now, each of these, the Brahmana, the Parartha, the Kalpa, the Manvantara, everything has been very well laid out in our ancient Indian astronomy text, right? These are the larger time scales. Now, the shorter time scales, like for example, the year or the Samvatsara, the Ayana, the Ritu, the Masa, the Paksha, the Titi, the Vasara, Nakshatra, Yoga, Karana. All of these are also very well defined in terms of what they are, what is their significance, how are they calculated, and how is our life, how does it influence our life on a day-to-day basis. So all of that is part of our overall way of living. So we'll look at them one by one, but this is the overarching time and geotagging that is presented to us in the form of the Sankalpa. Right? So let's move on. Okay, now Adya Brahmana. Adya Brahmana is it. So in our system there are multiple Brahmas, right? So Brahma, there are Brahma is almost like a role, right? It's not a person. So there's a Brahma that's born, he lives, and the life of that Brahma ends, and then the next Brahma comes into life, and so on and so forth, right? So the cyclical nature of the universe is at the heart. So it is said that the life of Brahma spans 311.04 trillion years, which is equivalent to 36,000 kalpas, right? So we'll see what a kalpa is, which is basically one day of Brahma is called as 36,000 kalpas, and then an equal number of lives, right? So now when this 100 years of Brahma gets over, then we go to a state of what we call as the full devastation, or what we call as the prakritika pralaya, right? So And currently, and so it is said that 50 years of Brahma has actually passed already. And in the overall span of 100 years, we are at the first day of the 51st year of Brahma. So that is the current Brahma. So when we say Adya Brahmana, in the Brahma of today, right? So that's why there is no specific name for that. Or there may be a name, but we don't refer to it. So in current Brahma time, which actually is in is one in one of the kalpa, in one of the 100 in one of the 36,000 kalpas that are there, right? So that's the first part. Now we say Dvitiya Parartha is the second half of that 100 years. So because it's 100 years, 50 have already passed, we are in the second leg of that Brahma's lifetime. So it is the Dvitiya Parartha. And then there are 36,000 kalpas, right? Now this 36,000 kalpas also comes because 36,000 is 360 into 100, right? So 100, you can take it as the number of years that Brahma lives, and 360 days in a year gives you that 36,000 kalpas, right? So one kalpa, which is one day of Brahma, is 4.32 billion years, right? So currently we are in the Svetavaraha Kalpa, which is the very first Kalpa of the 30 Kalpas that are there, right? Now, so that is one day of Brahma, after which there is the equivalent amount of one night of Brahma, which is another 4.32 billion years, right? So actually one full day of Brahma is 8.64 billion years. And one day of Brahma is 4.32 billion years. And each of that has separate names. Currently we are in the Svetavaraha Kalpa, which is the first of the 30 Kalpas that are there, right? Now each Kalpa is further divided into 14 Manvantaras, right? So Manvantara spans 306.72 billion years, and for each Manvantara there is one presiding Manu that is attached or associated with that Manvantara. And currently we are in the seventh Manvantara, which is the of the 14 Manvantaras, we are the seventh, which is the Vaivasvata Manvantara, right? And then this Manvantara in turn consists of 17 Divya Yugas, right? Or what we call as the Maha Yuga, right? Now, so each Divya Yuga is 4.32 million years, right? So which in turn consists of 4 Yugas, which is the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, where the ratio, if you look at the Yugas, is in the ratio 4:3:2:1, multiplied by the factor of the 4.32 lakh years, right? Which gives you a total of 43.2 lakh years, which is 4.32 million years, right? So that is the Yuga cycle, and we are currently in the 71 Divya Yugas that comprise one Manvantara. We are currently in the 28th Maha Yuga, and within the 28th Maha Yuga, we are actually in the Kali Yuga. So all of this is what we actually are referencing in our Sankalpa when we say Adya Brahmana, Dvitiya Pararthe, Sri Svetavaraha Kalpe, Vaivasvata Manvantare, Kali Yuge, Prathama Pade. Of course, before that, we also make a reference to the Ashtama Vimshati Maha Yuga, which is the 28th Maha Yuga. Within that, Kali Yuge, Prathama Pade, and that is where the time tagging stops for the Yuga. Right? Then there is a little bit of geotagging, where we say Jambu Dvipe, Bharadvarshe, Bharadakante, Dandakaranya, and all that. Now we are not going to get into that. And then it then goes into Chandramanena and the Samvatsara names and all that thing comes. I think Mahesh sir, you have a question?
And I was just saying that the Kali Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga is the twice Kali Yuga, and twice of that is Treta Yuga, and then 4 times is Satya Yuga. So it all 10 times Kali Yuga, right? That's how you get 4.32 million years. Chatur Yuga.
Yeah, correct.
And then Manvantara refers to 14 Manus, which who were supposed to rule as deputy of Brahma.
Correct. So the Yuga ratio is in the ratio of 4.4321, right? So if Kali Yuga is 1, which is 432,000 years, then Dwapara Yuga is twice of that, which is 864,000 years. Treta is thrice of Kali, which is 1.296 million years, and Satya Yuga is 4 times that, which is 1.728 million years. And all that, if you combine, it comes to 10 times that of Kali Yuga, which is a 4.32 million years. Now, if you note, this 4321 is not a random assignment, right? It ties to the 4 legs of the bull that the bull is losing. It has 4 legs. It goes to 3 legs. It goes to 2 legs, and it goes to 1 leg. So the timeline of the Yuga is not arbitrary, but it is fixed in a way to say that the deterioration of the Dharma is happening at a certain fraction with every Yuga, which is also encoded in the Bhagavata Purana, and which is also encoded in this time scale. So it is not a coincidence, but it's a very interesting design that it's in 4321 and not some 5432 or something like that. So that's another interesting thing that we may want to understand. Yeah, as you rightly said, Manvantara is every Manvantara is headed or presided by a specific Manu, and there are totally 14 Manvantaras, and currently we are in the 7th Manvantara, which belongs to the Vaivasvata Manu, which is the Vaivasvata Manvantara, right? And you can actually see that the 71 Divya Yugas multiplied by the 14 Manvantaras actually gives you a total of I think 1,000, which is why this 4.32 billion years actually becomes 4.32 billion years. So that's a factor of 1,000 going from Divya Yuga to the Kalpa, right? So it's almost like saying there are 1,000 Divya Yugas in one Kalpa, but then there's a Manvantara in between as well, right? But this is what we are actually remembering on a day-to-day basis when we actually chant the Sankalpa mantra, right? And also so there is a concept of a full devastation. It is a Prakritika Pralaya that happens at the end of the 100 years of Brahma, each of which is 360 Kalpas, right? And then, but then the Brahma, he sleeps and wakes up every day. So there is a partial devastation, or what we call as the Maha Pralaya, or the normal Pralaya that happens. So whenever he sleeps every day, there is a smaller Pralaya, but then at the end of the 100 years, there's a Maha Pralaya. So all of this is happening. This does not start, this does not end. This just keeps happening, which kind of emphasizes, going back to Ajay Ji's initial slides, the cyclical nature of the universe. So the cyclical nature of creation, sustenance, and destruction is a very common theme that we see across our Indian astronomy, and rather, as opposed to a Big Bang, right, which happened at a particular point in time, and then the universe. So, in a way, the Big Bang is probably an event in the entire cosmological framework, rather than a beginning of something. Right? So, I think that's what we are kind of understanding from here. Right? So, moving on. Now, obviously, the Maha Yugas has been referenced in multiple, texts, right? So in Srimad Bhagavatam, the same thing is mentioned, which is the 4 Yugas multiplied by 1,000 comprise 1 day on the planet of Brahma, which we just saw, the 4.32 million years, becoming the 4.32 billion years. And then a similar period comprises a night of Brahma, in which the creator of the universe goes to sleep. Right? So this is in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is from the Puranic times. And from the Surya Siddhanta also, we have the concept of a 4-fold Yuga. And we see that there's a mention of the 3 to million years, right, of of the span of the 4 yugas. And you can also here see that the fixed limit of the Krita and the other yugas is pi way, the fixed limit of the legs of the Dharma. So the legs of the Dharma are always equated to the yuga. So the legs of the Dharma, that is the bull, is always equated to the legs of the bull, which says that the Dharma is deteriorating as the yugas pass. And later, when the Satya Yuga comes again, so the Dharma will be at high, and then it will deteriorate, thereby confirming the cyclical nature of the rise and fall of Dharma. And then in Aryabhatiya, which is of course a little bit modern, relatively, we can see that now they have actually, Aryabhata is starting to quantify with a little bit more rigorous mathematics as to, in a yuga, how many revolutions are undertaken by the different grahas. So he is taking the concept of the yuga and then he is trying to mathematically define it in terms of the number of revolutions of the, every graha. So here I just wanted to kind of take a small detour and talk about, for example, if you look at this moon's revolution around the earth, right, it is 57,753,336, and there are these huge numbers. How did Aryabhatta actually encode these numbers in his text? Aryabhatiya is actually a very small text. It just consists of a few slokas divided into 4 parts. So how did he actually encode these numbers? That itself is an interesting concept. So I just thought I will share that with you. Yeah. Sorry. Let me share that with you. So if you look at this, right, you can see that to show the number of revolutions on the moon, he uses a word called Chayagini Shulu, right? Now, this Chayagini Shulu is there's no such word in Sanskrit. It's nothing but a mnemonic for a number, right? Which is basically this number. So how does he do it? He uses the system of encoding, which is called as the Aryabhata's encoding system, where every syllable is assigned a certain number and a certain exponent, right? And then he just places the syllables in a certain order, which also places the numbers on the exponents in a certain order. And then if you sum up all of them, you actually get the number, right? So it may seem pretty complicated, but I think it's a very intelligent way of compressing a large amount of information, and a very very unique way of doing it as well. So let me maybe show it. Let me just open this and show it. Show the actual Aryabhata notation. So if you see this cha, so this is Aryabhata's notation, right? Where all the aksharas like ka, ka, ga, ga, cha, cha, ja, ja are laid out, and the vowels, for example, the ka, tu are all laid out as columns. And if you look at, say, the cha is number 6 with the power of 0. Right? So now if you go here, so it translates into 6 into 10 power 0. Right? Similarly, if you take ya, right? So if you take ya is 30, and it is just a ya, without any additional vowel sound to it. So it has again an exponent of 0, which needs to be translated as 30 into 10 power 0, which gives you 30. But if you look at it, gi has an exponent of 2, or it needs to be multiplied by 100. So you need to take 3 and multiply by 100 to give you 300, and so on and so forth. So he has essentially compressed this entire number into this, this particular word. And you can see that the Aryabhatiya is actually completely filled with code names like this rather than actual numbers. And this is the way you could actually describe the huge numbers that are there. Right? So if you are interested, maybe you could try out using this notation. How would Aryabhatta encode this number? 299792458. If you find it interesting, it's a good exercise, right? But I just wanted to kind of show this quick, way in which actually Aryabhatta actually wrote his Ajay.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I mean, the way Aryabhatta has explained all these different concepts, including the rotation of the earth, putting together the sine table. Now, that is another story very similar to what Madhu just showed. That he laid out all the different explanations using a chord, half chord method, which he called the jia, and then the jia was translated into sine as it went along. But this just shows you the extent of the genius of that person. I mean, it is just amazing to see what he has done. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thanks, Ajay. Definitely, I think that's the intent, to show that it's not just astronomical facts that they needed to have these kind of number systems also to explain the different concepts. So there are other number systems, like for example, the Kakapayati number system is very commonly used in multiple texts. But Aryabhatta actually invented his own mathematical notation in order to write his own text. But yeah, the depth of the thinking and the extent of the thinking is something that's really admirable. That they thought about these things in such a way in those times. Definitely, yeah. So moving on now. So see, this is no, see, the Yuga cycle that we saw is like millions and billions of years, right? So what is the practical value of that, right? So because during the Vedanta Jyotisha times, like we always keep saying, right, everything is related to the right way of performing the rituals, right? Now, in order to facilitate that, there was the idea of a 5-year Yuga cycle uh, that was defined, right? Now, the 5-year Yuga also is present in multiple texts. Like, for example, in Mahabharata, it says Panchame Varshe, Dau Masa Vadika Masakau, right? So, and then it's in other texts like Artha Shastra and Garga Samhita and Siddhantas and all those things, right? Now, this was purely done in order to facilitate, in order to give a calendar for the performance of the yajnas, right? So, in this system, in a yuga, there were only 5 years. So when we say 5 years, yeah, 2021 to 2025 could be one yuga, right? So this was more for practical purposes, and in this and the yuga always started with the Magha Shukla Paksha starting. So whenever the Magha month shows the winter solstice, then the yuga also started. So if you recollect from our from our previous discussions, right? The solstice has always happened at Dhanishta Nakshatra, right? And the other solstice, which is the winter solstice, actually happened at the Magha Nakshatra, right? So the Magha Shukla Paksha, where the winter solstice actually happens, is considered to be the beginning of the yuga. And in one yuga, there are, because it's 5 years, so there are 62 months, right? So 12 into 5, 60 months, Chandramasas. Then there is an addition of 2 extra months because of the concept of what we call as the Adhika Masa, right? So it is 60 months as per the movement of the sun. But if you define a month as the coming together of the sun and the moon, then for every 5 years you need to add 2 additional months, which is the Adhika Masa. We'll come to the concept of Adhika Masa in much detail later, but typically there are 7 Adhika Masas that need to be added in the time span of 19 years. And typically, there will be one Adhika Masa that will come every 3 years, right? Approximately, right? So in a span of 5 years, they had got 2 Adhika Masas, which constitutes the 60 plus 2 Chandra Masas. Then there are 1830 sidereal days. So when I say sidereal days, we are talking about the sun coming back to the same point against the backdrop of the fixed stars. So those are 1830 sidereal days. So if you look at it's approximately 360 into 5, right? So that's a plus, another 30 days that is there. And then there are 1860 tithis. So the sidereal days and the tithis are different. So the sidereal days are calculated based on the sun coming back to the same position against the backdrop of the stars, whereas the tithis are related to the sun and the moon coming and joining at the same point. So that is what it's from Amavasya to Amavasya or from Paurnami to Paurnami is what you call it. So in this 5-year Yuga cycle, you actually see that there are 1860 tithis that are there, right? And this was, so at the end of every 5 years, right, a new Yuga is starting, right? And then whatever they have cyclically defined to happen in a Yuga, those activities will start happening. So that's the way. It was more for a convenience for doing the yajna that this was devised, right? Now, obviously, this is not very accurate, right? So if you look at it, with every Yuga, there will actually be, if you actually do the detailed calculations, with every Yuga, there will be a deficit of 1 tithi, right? So there are a lot of inaccuracies in this, because of which there were a lot of criticisms here. But still, this Yuga cycle was actually followed by the ancient, Indians, because they believed in what is called as the fivefold nature of the yajna or the panta, right? So everything has to happen in 5. So there have to be 5 altars. There has to be 5 different types of fire, and also there's a certain fivefold system that is the yajna is based on. In order to follow that, they also fixed the Yuga cycle as 5 years, right? So again, we'll not go into the panta or the fivefold nature in this course. It's a much different course, but I just wanted to mention that the 5-year Yuga cycle was practically used in the times of the Vedanga Jyotisha, right? Now, let me quickly illustrate this 5-year Yuga cycle, right? Now, for example, let's take Magha Sukla Paksha in 2025, right? So I'm going to say around January 29 in 2025, right? So you can actually see that if you observe here, you can see that the Magha month is just starting on the Amavasya, right? And the Shukla Pratipad or the Shukla Paksha has just started. So you can see that the moon and the sun are together in the sign of Capricorn or Makara. Right? So you can see that the moon is in Shravana, the sun is also in Shravana. It's the Amavasya. The Yuga is just starting. The Magha Sukla Paksha is starting and the Yuga is also starting. Now, say 5 years have passed and I go to 2030. Let me go to the Magha Sukla Paksha of 2030, right? So you can see that we are almost there. The moon and sun are again back in Makara. And so the moon and sun are in Makara in February 2, 2030. So the Yuga that started in 2025 in January 29 is actually ending on February 2nd, 2030 in 2030. So this is the time span of one Yuga, and the moon and sun have actually returned back to their original positions at the end of the Yuga in a state that was similar to when the Yuga started. Right? So this was the 5-year Yuga cycle that they were using in the in those olden days. And if you actually look at the Sukla Pratipad, right, you see that the moon has actually crossed and gone on to the next sign, right? So there is a difference. So this is the inaccuracy or the difference of one tithi that that happens with every 5 years. But in spite of this, they still followed this system because they believed in the fivefold nature of the yajna, and they wanted to stick to the 5-year Yuga cycle. Right now, so obviously, so there are two Yuga systems that we are seeing now. Right, one is the larger 4 Yuga system, which is more of a it is not, see, we don't use the 4 Yuga system on a day-to-day basis, right? I mean, it's in a much larger time scale. You know, it doesn't impact on us on a day-to-day basis. It is just there as a construct to explain the cyclical nature of time and the rise and the fall of dharma that happens across larger time scales. Whereas the 5-year Yuga has a more practical aspect of it, especially when performing the yajna, and hence it is constricted to a smaller time cycle, like 5 years. So these two serve different purposes, and they are not. So, you know, say someone asks, you know, so one yuga consists of how many years, right? So there are actually two answers to that question, depending on what context the question is asked, right? So, but both of them emphasize the fact that the time is cyclical. Everything keeps repeating, you know, nothing, it's not linear. So I think that's the emphasis from their two Yuga systems. So that's about the Yuga. And you can see that the Yuga, 5-year Yuga is mostly mentioned in the Vedanta Jyotisha, in the Vedic literature, whereas the Siddhantas that came much later and the Puranas that were much earlier focused on the 4 Yuga system. Right? So going forward, so we have seen Kaliyuge, Pratamapade, Yambudvipe, Bharashe, Bharakante, Dandakane, Godare, Dakshini Parse, Salivasake, Buddhavate, Ramakshetra, Asmin Vartamane. Asmin Vartamane is in the current time. Chandramane, so Chandramane. So we'll talk about what Chandramana and Sauramana systems are. Chandramane. We then say Vishwavasu Nama Samvatsara. So then that brings us to the concept of Samvatsara. Samvatsara is the literal meaning of Samvatsara is the Vasanti Ritava Yatra. So it is the time frame in which the seasons are residing. So it is a container for the different seasons that are there, which is basically the year. That's called as the Samvatsara. And each season is spans 2 months. So there are 6 seasons. So 12 months is one Samvatsara. And it's the foundational unit of measurement in our Bharatiya Astronomy. Especially important for fixing the ritual times, right? So, average duration of the lunar year. Right? So, Samvatsara is the lunar year. So, there's a separate year called the solar year. So, we are talking only about the lunar year, right? So, the average duration is 12 months, 12 times the duration of 1 month, right? And what is that 1 month? That 1 month is called as the synodic month. So the synodic month is calculated from one new moon to another new moon, which is typically 29.54, giving a total of the lunar year duration to 354 days. It's an important number for us to remember, right? So one Samvatsara is actually 354 days, and each lunar year is called as a Samvatsara. There are totally 60 Samvatsaras, as you would all know very well. That these are the 60 Samvatsaras that starts from Prabhava, Vibhava, Shukla, all those things. And currently, we are in the Vishwavasu Samvatsara, which is 2025, 2026, according to the Gregorian calendar. And the last time it happened was 60 years back, which is from 1965 to, 1965 to 1966. So once all these 60 Samvatsaras are completed, the next Samvatsara will start which is so the next samvatsara, the next cycle of samvatsara will start, which is the Vibhava and Shukla, and we reference this in our Sankalpa also when we that are samvatsara, right? So these are the 60 samvatsaras that are there. And because it is the lunar year, it starts at the Chaitra first day, right? Which is typically celebrated as the Chandramana Yugadi in our tradition, right? So typically it happens in the third week of March or sometime around that. And it's always the new moon that follows, that precedes the Mesha Shankramana. So for example, if Sun enters the Mesha Rasi on a particular date, which is typically around April 14th, the new moon that happens before that is the first day of Chaitra Masa, which is when the Chandramana Yugadi is also starts. So the Samvatsara actually starts in the Chandramana Yugadi. And it ends with the last day of the Samvatsara, which is the Falguna Krishna Amavasya. So it starts with Chaitra Shukla Pratipat and ends with Falguna Krishna Amavasya. Right? Now, this is the lunar year, right? However, the solar year is completely different. So the solar year is related to how the sun is transiting into different signs. So that's why even the starting, April 14th is when the solar year starts, but April 14th is not the day when the lunar year starts. So there is a lack of synchronization between the lunar year and the solar year, right? Now, in order to reconcile this difference, there is a concept of Adhika Masa, right? So there are certain years in which Adhika Masas are added to the Samvatsara in order to bring it in synchronization with the solar calendar. Again, we'll talk about it, in much detail how it actually is calculated. But the solar calendar and the lunar calendar are reconciled using the Adhika Masa, which is the adjustment that is added to the lunar year. Right? That happens because the synodic month is 29.54 days, whereas the sidereal month is 27.3 days. So if you recollect, synodic is from new moon to new moon or full moon to full moon, whereas the sidereal is related to the stars. That is moon coming on the front of, say, Mesha, right? So that is different from the moon, new moon coming back to new moon. So that the sidereal is 27.3 days and the synodic is 29.54 days. So the lunar calendar and the solar calendar keep drifting, and then the drift becomes so large that it has to be compensated using the Adhika Masa, which is the intercalary. We'll talk about it. Right? Now, if you look at the Samvatsara, which is a 60-year cycle, it also aligns with the return of Saturn and with the return of Jupiter. So Saturn rotates, or Saturn comes back to the same point in space once in 30 years, right? Whereas Jupiter comes back in space once in every 12 years. Right? So if you take the least common, LCM of these two, right, you see that it is 60. So Saturn and Jupiter come back again to the same point after 60 years. This always happens. You can actually go and check your own chart, and you can see that when you are born, wherever the Saturn and Jupiter are posited, and when you reach 60 years, approximately, Saturn and Jupiter will be at the same position. So this is called as a return of both Saturn and Jupiter. And this is also the reason why the Shashti of the Purti attains importance in our tradition, because that is the first time in your life that the Saturn and the Jupiter comes back to the same position, in a similar position to us when you were born. So the 60-year and the 120-year hold a very special place in our system. And our Samvatsaras are also aligned with the movement of the Saturn and Jupiter. And typically, if you see Jupiter will cross one sign on an average in one Samvatsara. So it is crossing 12 signs, starting from Mesha to Meena in a course of 12 years. So one complete rotation of Jupiter coming back to its original position happens at the end of 12 years, right? So that is the Samvatsara. So I know I am kind of almost time, but let me quickly illustrate this 60-year cycle. So if you look at this, right, you see Saturn today, this is as of today, November 23rd, 2025. Saturn is at Meena, right, or Pisces. Jupiter is in Cancer or Kataka, right? Now, if I just fast forward this by 60 years, say, let me go to 2085, thereabouts, approximately. You can see that the Saturn and the Jupiter are at the same positions as they are today, right? So this is the return. This is what's called the return of Saturn and Jupiter. So the 60 years is an important milestone actually in everyone's life, which we celebrate it as Sashtiyabda Purti, where we kind of honor the person who has attained that 60 years, because he has actually seen 2 returns of Saturn and 5 returns of Jupiter in his life. So he must have had he must have gone through a lot of ups and downs. He must have spent he must have burnt a lot of karma in his life in these times, and hence we honor that person to have attained a certain milestone in his life. So I think maybe with that, we can pause for today. There are a lot more interesting things coming down, but I think today was just to cover the Yuga and the Samvatsara, right? Any questions?
So straight away, Madhu, I can say this was a fascinating lecture. I mean, the 1 hour passed so quickly. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah, it is, Madhuji. The synod. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing some questions on chat. This bull anecdote can also be seen in Kedareshwar Cave Temple in Harishchandragarh, this temple, but there are 4 pillars. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I don't know. Oh, Maharashtra. Okay. Sure. Thank you, Sudhaji. Hopefully, we'll get to see this one day, I hope. Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
Are there any rules that decide which lunar month gets the Adhika Masa when 2 new moons occur in the same solar month? Yeah, I mean, see, whenever we'll come to this later with more detail, but I would like to say that whenever there are 2 Amavasyas happening in the same solar month, that qualifies to be an Adhika Masa in itself, right? Right? I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. So, in other words, in other words, say the sun has entered a particular rasi, for example, Mesha, right? Now, the moon meets sun in Mesha, and that's Amavasya that is forming, right?
Right.
Now, the sun continues to be in Mesha, right? Now, the moon has gone 1 full circle, and it's again coming back and joining sun in Mesha itself. Typically, it will join it in Rishabha if it's not an Adhika Masa, right? But if it is joining it in the same sign, then that month becomes the Adhika Masa, right? So the rule is both 2 consecutive Amavasyas happening within the same Rasi where the sun is posited. That is when the Adhika Masas will actually happen, right? And we will see this using an example. The last Adhika Masa happened sometime in 2023, I think June or July.
23, July 24th.
July
24th.
23. Yeah, correct. So, and one of the assignments that we'll probably see down the line is for you to calculate when the next Adhika Masa will happen, right? So we'll actually come to that. Okay. So typically they have once in 3 years, around about once in 33 months to be exact, is when they actually happen. Slightly short of 3 years, right? If a lunar year is 354 and the solar year is 365.24, the error is 11.24 over a 19 metonic. That is perfect. Does the traditional Bharatiya system produce a similar long-term correction? It is the same correction. It is what is so the you see that 11.24 days per year, right?
Right.
Now that 11.24 days over a course of 3 years become 33 days, right?
Yes.
And when it reaches the span of 1 month, that becomes an Adhika Masa, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
so when it is 2 times, it is not yet a month. But when it has happened 3 times, it is now a month. So now that comes and joins as an Adhika Masa in the in the calendar. And it will also be you can also see that the Amavasya, the thing that we talked about earlier, will coincide with the 3rd year that this additional thing is happening, right? So we'll talk about it. Yeah. But yeah, 11 days into 33 days, that comes as the Adhika Masa.
Adhika Masa. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Thank you, Madhuji.
Yeah.
And one last question.
Yeah.
What software are you using for the Jyotisha thing that you just showed us?
So it is called Jagannath Hora.
Okay.
Right. It's available as a free downloadable software. So if you are interested in astrology, it's a highly recommended software. I mean, almost it's one of the basic softwares that you need to have, like MS Office, right?
Okay.
Because it will give you all the data points,
Okay.
like the Panchanga and all the positions of the planets and everything that you need in order to. So that's the one that I use. But again, I don't prescribe that everyone has to use it.
Okay.
For the purposes of this course, you can look up online ephemeris data. Like NASA has its own ephemeris data. You can look at it. Or there is something called Lahiri's ephemeris, which is available as some kind of books. So you can use that. All of them will actually say the same, will give you the same data. But this is very convenient for my usage. So I kind of use it. Yes, sir. I think Mahesh, sir, you have a question?
Yeah, this Adhika Masa, I heard, when I was in Karnataka, they used to say this Adhika Masa, but I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I have not come across this in Tamil Nadu, right?
Yes, sir.
We don't use the word Adhika Masa.
Yes, sir. So interestingly, the lunar year and the solar year in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, we use the solar calendar mostly, right? So the new Tamil New Year starts at April 14th. So the Chitrai Tamil New Year. Yeah, so the Tamil New Year starts when the sun enters Mesha, which is the beginning of the Chitrai Masam, and typically it is April 14th. And as the sun enters progressive rasis, the months change from Chitrai to Vaigasi to Avani and so forth. Whereas the lunar calendar is completely based on the new moon to new, the synodic, the new moon to new moon. So sometimes it goes to the extent where there is almost a month difference. So, for example, in the lunar year, the Margashirsa month has already started, right? We are in Margashirsa Sukla Tritiya today. Whereas the Margazhi, which is the corresponding Tamil month, starts only in December 14th or 15th, right? So it's completely 2 different calendar systems that we use. And the Adhika Masa also I have not seen a lot used in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. In Karnataka, yes.
I not heard of it at all.
It is used.
Yeah, Karnataka we do use it.
Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I'm asking.
Actually, what is more fascinating compared to all these mathematical calculations and all that is when you see I am a Kannadiga. When I grew up, when this Adhika Masa comes, they give donations, right? And the donations will always be in multiples of 33. Either you give 33 pieces of cloth or 33 coins. Or I never understood what the 33 until we came across that the difference in the years or the difference in days between the solar calendar and the lunar calendar is actually 11.24 into 3, which is actually 30, right? So this is the way we have kind of imbibed the astronomical facts into our tradition, and we are kind of recollecting and remembering this by way of our traditions. I think that's the more fascinating part of all this beyond the mathematics and all that.
Yeah,
So,
Absolutely.
that explains. Yeah.
yeah, so
Another
33 is
thing,
the,
yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah. No, go ahead.
No, another thing is, one beauty about this cyclic time thing is like whenever time scale is linear, it has to have a beginning and it has to have an end.
Correct.
Whereas in a cyclic, you can have infinite number of start and stop, or beginning and end. Basically, it is endless, right?
Correct.
Beginningless and endless, so to speak.
Correct.
Because that's
So,
what, and you mentioned pralaya, I mean, so like one chaduruga, 1,000 chaduruga is Brahma's one day.
correct.
Okay, not counting the night. So that's how the trillion years come for one
Correct.
Brahmaji's
100 years.
like 100 years. So the another thing interesting is, like, we talk about after that a pralayam will come. Interestingly, we go through pralayam every day, because when you sleep
when we sleep
and
at
when you are in sushupti, that is pralayam. That is called nitya pralayam.
Correct, Nitya Pralaya. So there are 4 types of Pralaya. The Nitya Pralaya that you just said, and then there's the Maha Pralaya that happens at the end of the Kalpa,
Correct.
and then there is the Prakritika Pralaya, which happens at the end of one Brahma, and then there is the last Pralaya, which I think is the moksha or dissolution of the Jiva into the, that's a much higher philosophical. But there are 4 types of Pralaya, and yeah, like you rightly said,
and the definition of pralayam is nothing but manifest become unmanifest.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I would say very, very smart to use a cyclic calendar, because you don't argue whether what happened before that is
Absolutely. 100%. So because this concept of beginning, we get into some complicated questions like what happened before Big Bang.
Yeah,
It's a very,
we get hung up on that.
Exactly. It's very, and then we reconcile ourselves saying, it's pointless to talk about it. We avoid that question. Whereas when you yield yourself to the cyclic nature of time, you don't have those tangling questions, right? It's a cycle. It will dissolve and then it will form again. Energy.
Yeah,
energy
it goes
comes
through a
again.
cycle, and that's it. Just like birth and death cycle. So that's it. So it's a very beautiful way to get out of this, which started first and when in all this kind of stuff. Anyway, thank you. That was very, very good.
Yeah. One more question is there. Why do some calendars follow synodic, new moon to new moon, and some use full moon to full moon? Again, it's a great question. So this in the North India, typically they use full moon to full moon, whereas in South India, it's typically new moon to new moon. Again, I really don't know the reason for that. I have to be very honest with you. Both are same actually. If you look at it, right? I mean, maybe it's maybe what we considered as good. Maybe the Purnami was considered to be auspicious in North India, and hence the month. Actually, there are 2 types of months, right? The Amanta and the Purnimanta, right? So the Amanta is from Amavasya to Amavasya, whereas the Purnimanta is from Purnami to Purnami. For some reason, in North India, the Purnimanta is used whereas in South India, Amavasya is considered auspicious, equivalent to Purnami. And Amavasya to Amavasya is also used. I think
maybe just like in the horoscope or what that thing, they go cyclic, and we go anti-clockwise. They go clockwise, right? When they place the rashis.
No, actually, both are clockwise. So the moon always.
Somehow I thought when I was in Delhi, someone, what they call it, they write Kundali, for this, what we call a horoscope. And I was under them, and at least I was thinking that somehow I remember someone saying that in South it is going from anti-clockwise, and in North it is clockwise, or vice versa. Some difference is there.
So, I mean, that is just a perspective of how we document the
Represent.
planets in
Representation.
our rashis, right? So North Indian system is a North Pole kind of a view, top-down view. South Indian system is a bottom-up view.
Yeah, in
So
fact,
that's
in the
why
North
you
Indian
see the whole
system,
directions.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the North
Go
Indian
ahead.
systems, you start counting the houses in anti-clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. Whereas in South, you actually count from clockwise direction. But that's more of a representation only. It doesn't, all the planets go in a clockwise direction, except Rahu and Ketu, which go in the, and retrograde planets, which go in the opposite anti-clockwise direction. So Ram, you have a question. Is it always 30 days per month? It's 29.54 Ram, to be precise.
Oh yeah, okay. That's what I meant.
Yeah, depending on Earth in apogee or perigee, the Tamil months have 28, 29 to 31, 32. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So basically, when it is in apogee, is closer to sun, right? So kind of very conformant with what we call it as Kepler's laws. So when it is farther, so it is like divided into 12 equal sectors. So and because when the Earth is farther, it moves slower, right? So because of that, it needs more days for a sector when it is closer to that. So when the Earth is farther, so those months in Tamil calendar actually has 31 to 32 days. And when Earth is closer to the sun on the other side of it, which is what it's going to be winter, right? Yeah. So in winter months, you will see less number of days per month. So the least it goes down to is 29 days, and in the farthest it actually goes to 32 days a month. So I guess that is the adjustment that we do in Sauramana calendar. Compared to the Chandramasa calendar, right? Chandramana calendar, right?
Yes. So I think, I agree with you that in the course of the 20 or one cycle around the Earth, it won't be always traveling at the same speed. Like you said, at the perigee, it will be faster because it's closer to the Earth and it feels the Earth's gravitation. Whereas at the apogee, it is a bit slower because, but then the moon is also attracted by the sun's gravity, right? So
yes,
it will, like you said, it will keep varying between the 29 days and maybe 30, 31 days. But if you average it over the year, the average I think it comes to 29.5.
yes, yeah, it does. It does.
Seconds.
So basically, I'm just kind of trying to understand the reasons for why the solar calendar, the South, the Kerala Tamil calendar does not have the Adhikamasa concept compared to this, where we don't even have, I don't even know. I'm not an expert, but I don't think we have a concept of a leap year as well. I guess this 31, 32 days.
See, I think there have been three choices made in India, across India, right? One is completely use solar calendars, which Tamil Nadu and Kerala do today, right? If you go to some parts of North India, completely only lunar calendars. They don't care about when sun enters Mesha or Rishabha. That's a complete pure Sauramana calendar. There are some, like in Karnataka, Andhra, where they use Luni solar calendar. So for them, the Ugadi, the lunar movement is also important for some purposes. And the solar, for example, right, I'll tell you in Dhanur Masam, in Karnataka, the Dhanur Masam is important for doing certain rituals, right? So Dhanur Masam is when the sun enters Sagittarius. So for me, that is important for some purposes, but my lunar calendar is also important. So it is those lunisolar calendar users that need the reconciliation, where this Harikamasa reconciliation will have to be present, right? But if you are following purely Sauramana or Chandramana, then Harikamasa, no one cares about Harikamasa.
Okay. So only the lunisolar needs the Adhikamasa concept.
Yes, only
so
the
complete
lunisolar.
Chandram, Chandram centric doesn't really care. It is just purely the 29.5 days, and it just keeps going in cycles.
Yeah, and the complete Chandramana, the two variations of that is what one Srilataji mentioned, which is the Purnima to Purnima and the Amavasya to Amavasya.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's more of a practice and the convenience. It doesn't change anything literally. It's just when you start your month. Do I want to start my month in an Amavasya or an Purnima? That's the only thing. But the lunisolar calendar has the need for this reconciliation. Otherwise, I think their calendars will completely go out of sync over years. So it's near there.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Okay.
Okay. I think we are way above our closing time. So maybe we should pause here. A lot of more interesting stuff to come. I can guarantee that in the next class we'll discuss further. Feel free to drop in your questions in the WhatsApp group as well. So we don't have an assignment this week, but maybe we'll cover more ground next week and have an assignment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Dhanyawada.
Thank you.
Dhanyawada.
Thank you. Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.